The news came quietly but struck with immense weight. Donnie Swaggart, the son of the renowned evangelist Jimmy Swaggart, shared with heavy emotion that his father's health remains precarious. Jimmy Swaggart, now 90 years old and a towering figure in the world of Pentecostal broadcasting, suffered a cardiac event last Sunday. He was found unresponsive at home, prompting immediate action from his family. Donnie, speaking to the congregation at their worship center in Baton Rouge, recalled the harrowing moments with vivid clarity. He and another family member rushed to their mother's house just after 8 in the morning to find his father collapsed and unconscious. They began chest compressions while waiting for emergency responders, a moment that felt endless in its uncertainty. When the paramedics arrived, a coordinated flurry of medical effort began, and Jimmy was transported to the hospital's intensive care unit, where doctors managed to revive him, though his heartbeat was faint and his condition critical. Despite the dire prognosis given by the doctors, one that leaves little room for optimism. Unless something changes dramatically, the Swaggart family clings to faith and hope. Donnie's words to the congregation were filled with conviction. He spoke of their unshaken belief in God's ability to perform miracles and expressed gratitude for the outpouring of prayers and support from believers worldwide. He acknowledged the expertise of the medical professionals but reminded everyone that their faith would guide their decisions in the coming days. As the global Christian community lifts up prayers, there is a collective pause to reflect on Jimmy Swaggart's health and, more broadly, on the complex and far-reaching legacy he has shaped over his lifetime. Jimmy Swaggart's story is one of transformation, resilience, and renewal. For decades, he has been an emblem of second chances and the enduring power of faith. Whether people knew him from his televised sermons, his distinctive voice over radio waves, or simply as a name synonymous with American evangelicalism, his influence is unmistakable. Now, at 90, his presence is still felt in the family worship center in Baton Rouge, through countless gospel recordings, preserved sermons, and the testimonies of those touched by his ministry. Even as he lies silent in a hospital bed, the echoes of his life's work continue to reverberate through the community he built. His journey began in the 1930s. In the small, sun-soaked Louisiana town of Ferriday, opportunities were scarce, and faith was the foundation upon which many lives were built. Swaggart's early ministry was less about seeking fame and more about conviction. He traveled to remote locations, preaching in tents and rural churches, often on rickety roads and makeshift stages. The settings were humble, but his belief in the transformative power of the gospel never wavered. Week after week, he covered hundreds of miles, convinced that even the smallest community deserved to hear the message of hope. That steadfast dedication became the backbone of his ministry. By the time the 1970s and 1980s arrived, Jimmy had become a household name. No longer just a traveling preacher, he now reached millions through television and radio. His sermons and music broadcast on over 250 stations in the United States and abroad. His impassioned Pentecostal preaching, unfiltered and direct, resonated with audiences. The heartfelt gospel songs he wrote and performed brought comfort to the weary and solace to the brokenhearted. His sermons offered inspiration to the faithful, and posed challenges to those indifferent to spiritual matters. In a world teeming with voices, Swaggart's was raw, honest, and deeply moving. Yet, his journey was not a seamless ascent. Like many charismatic leaders, Jimmy faced a public downfall that shook the Christian world. The prostitution scandals that emerged in the late 1980s and early 1990s shattered the trust of his followers and severely damaged his reputation. He was stripped of his credentials by his denomination. The media was relentless, and many supporters turned away. But, remarkably, Swaggart did not disappear. Instead, he chose to rebuild not his public image, but the core of his ministry. He continued to preach, not on the grand stages of national television, but from his own pulpit, surrounded by those who still believed in his message. The family worship center became more than a church. It became a symbol of resilience and a sanctuary for those seeking hope after disappointment. In his later years, Swaggart continued to pour himself into worship, teaching, and even the founding of the Sun Life Broadcasting Network. Despite changing times and a shifting media landscape, his commitment to his calling remained unwavering. It is rare for someone to endure such public scrutiny and still persist, not out of pride, but from a deep sense of responsibility to share the message of Jesus Christ. For Swaggart, the pulpit was not about personal glory but about fulfilling what he believed to be his divine mission. Even now, as his voice is silenced by illness, the world waits anxiously. recognizing that his life has always been anchored in faith, especially during moments when answers were elusive. The essence of Jimmy Swaggart's faith is not found in a life untouched by struggle but in one that rises after every setback. It is the kind of faith that keeps believing in God's promises even when circumstances appear hopeless. Whether this moment marks the end of his earthly journey or just another chapter in a long, eventful life, it is a fitting time to reflect on what he has represented. For so many, he was a messenger of hope and redemption. His story, while serving as a cautionary tale for some, is ultimately a reminder that everyone, even preachers, are human, capable of failure, in need of grace, and constantly growing. Jimmy Swaggart's impact spans generations. For many, his name is woven into the fabric of their spiritual upbringing. His preaching, his music, and his writings have reached millions, both in America and around the world. What began as a small-town ministry in the 1950s blossomed into a global mission by the 1980s. At its peak, his broadcasts were heard across continents, and his crusades touched regions fraught with both spiritual longing and political unrest. He authored over 50 Christian books, and his distinctive gospel music even gained recognition from the Grammy Awards. One of his proudest achievements, the founding of Jimmy Swaggart Bible College, helped train thousands for ministry and leadership, leaving an educational legacy that endures. Even after personal and public setbacks, Swaggart never completely withdrew from view. Following his dismissal from the Assemblies of God, he adopted a non-denominational approach and focused on building up his ministry from within. He invested in the Sun Life Broadcasting Network and continued to lead services at the Family Worship Center, maintaining his involvement well into his late 80s. Through it all, his priorities remained rooted in faith and family, a guiding force in times of both triumph and trial. Recently, the weight of the situation has been especially burdensome for the Swaggart family, particularly Donnie, who has served for years as his father's co-pastor and confidant. Donnie has spoken candidly about what his father means to him, not just as a famous preacher, but as a mentor and a friend. The uncertainty of the days ahead is tempered by their enduring trust in God and the steady stream of prayers coming in from all corners of the globe. While decisions about the future of the ministry have not yet been made, Donnie and his son Gabriel continue to lead services, honoring the principle that the work of ministry must go on, regardless of the challenges faced. Throughout this period of waiting, the Swaggart family and their congregation have been uplifted by messages of support from longtime viewers, ministry partners, and pastors who attribute their own spiritual journeys to Jimmy Swaggart's influence. Prayer vigils have been held outside the worship center, and the sense of community, local and global, remains strong. Looking back, many are reminded of the sheer reach of Jimmy Swaggart's voice and the lasting imprint of his life's work. His story is marked by perseverance, a sense of purpose, and a deep trust in the restorative power of faith. His life was not one of perfection, but of dedication to a cause greater than himself. He gave his talents, time, and energy in service to Christ, and that legacy continues to resonate. In the end, perhaps his most profound message is not found in any sermon or song, but in the quiet endurance with which he has faced life's greatest challenges, surrounded by family, fortified by faith, and upheld by the prayers of countless followers. As the world watches and waits, the legacy of Jimmy Swaggart stands as a testament to the influence of a life devoted to faith, even in the face of adversity. Whatever the outcome, his story serves as a reminder that the most powerful testimonies are often those lived out in humility, patience, and unwavering trust in something greater than ourselves. For all the millions whose lives he touched, there is gratitude, and in this moment of uncertainty, there is hope that the message he lived by will continue to inspire for generations to come.